you understand what's being asked. Then you want to use reasonable answers. So you want to really think about, does the answer make sense? And how you can put some reason to that. Well, today is about constructing viable arguments. That means, can you justify your answer? Can you justify it and critique it? So if you analyze the problem and explain your thinking, and also be able to respond to other people's ideas, like this idea here. It's there's a question, it says, hey, are you cold? Come sit in the corner. It's 90 degrees. Oh, that's a cute joke. Now, some of you may be thinking, what? I don't get it. And that's okay, because other people are like, oh, I'm critiquing what this person's thinking right now. And I understand that a corner, a right angle, equals exactly 90 degrees at all times. So 90 degrees in math or 90 degrees in weather is still a nice ha ha ha. Thank you. I got a few ha ha's out of that one. And those of you who have had a little bit of geometry and you maybe have learned acute angles. Anyway, if you are critiquing this joke, I will post the slideshow for you to look and critique it more later. But I do have a problem that goes with that, of course. Here's a way that you would use this in real life, okay? I'm sure you've seen something like this before, maybe when you go out to eat, and sometimes they give you this offer of a meal or a combo meal, and you think, oh yes, I want the combo meal. But if you're gonna really critique this and look at it and justify buying this combo meal, you need to know, am I really saving money here? If so, how much do I save a combo meal? So if you look at In-N-Out Burger here, a combo meal for a double-double costs $7.89. That comes with the hamburger, or the double-double, sorry, French fries, and a medium-sized drink. So if you were to really critique this and look at it, you think, am I really saving money by ordering the combo? You would have to add each item separately and say, a double-double, thank you, Mr. Mullen, double-double is $4.19. The French fries are $1.95. And if I'm looking over here at the beverages, a medium-sized drink is $1.75. If you would please take out your whiteboards and markers or pencil and paper, whatever you have handy, and over the next 2 minutes, I would like you to add this up and tell me, are you really saving money? If so, how much? So you have 2 minutes to see if this combo meal is really going to save you money. Okay, I'm going to put on my timer. Ready? 2 minutes, go. That's it. 2 minutes is up. We're going to go over the answers. I learned this yesterday. I have an answer key here. All right. A double-double, fries and a medium drink does cost exactly $7.89. So it doesn't really save you any money. It might save you time just by saying, I want the number one, please. That means they know that you want just the number one and those 3 items rather than ordering the double-double, the French fries, and the soda separately. Number 2, number 3, none of these combos actually save you money, but there are other fast food places and restaurants that do save you money. And I went through and I was actually looking, and I'm going to give you this little bonus question here. Whoops again. Oh, I forget that I have touch screen. If you can find a better deal at another restaurant, if you were to go to eat at McDonald's or Taco Bell, I challenge you, and this is a challenge, it's not for a homework assignment or anything, but think about it. Next time you go to a restaurant, do the math in your head, really critique and analyze it. Say, is this combo meal really saving me money? Or is it the same if I order it separately? Okay, so I can tell you that most other restaurants do save you money. So you want to look at that. And actually, there are restaurants out there that cost more for the combo meal than if you order it separately. So always pay attention to that. That's how you can use this in real life to help save you money in the long run. Okay, any questions about this mathematical practice? Practice number 3. All right, I'm going to continue on then. The 4th mathematical practice, this is mathematical practice number 4. This says model with math. And of course, we will always want you to show your work. I'm from Missouri, and Missouri's nickname is called the Show Me State. And I always say, show me, otherwise I don't believe you. You can show me using diagrams, words, symbols, numbers, pictures. However, if we look at this young man over here, it says Bobby has 4 dimes, Amy has 30 pennies. 4 dimes, that's 40 cents. 30 pennies, that's 30 cents. Which child has more money? Bobby. Oh, that's the right answer. How do you know? Show your thinking. See, I was thinking, so here's Bobby thinking. That's a picture, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Mellon. I appreciate your enthusiasm, your humor over my humor. So this is not exactly what we're talking about. We have other methods and other tools that we will be working on throughout the year. And one of the ways that we can show your work is using model drawing. And this is an example of model drawing. And again, we'll work on this more throughout the year. We'll teach you exactly how to do this. We'll go step by step. But for right now, here's a quick example of how to use model drawing. There's a situation that says I earned 3 times as much money this week as I did last week. And he's drawing this picture here. It says this week I earned 3 times as much. Okay, and this week I earned $150. So there's the total, 150. And there's 3 little boxes that just represents 3 times as much as last week. But the question is, how much more did I earn this week than last week? So here's a representation of last week. Last week, I only earned 1 chunk of money. This week, I earned 3 chunks of money. 3 times more is 3 chunks more. But the question is actually asking, how much more? So if you want to know how much more, you're actually going to have to subtract that. So you have to solve how much money does each chunk or each block here represent, okay? And for this case, I do want you to think about this for about a minute, and I'll set my timer, and you can solve this on your whiteboard or your paper and pencil and see if your answer matches my answer, which we'll show a share in 1 minute. Okay, you have 1 minute, go ahead. All right, minute is up, and let's see if you guys have an answer. You can flip it up and we'll take a quick peek at that. The question was, how much more did I earn this week than last week? And the final answer is $100 more. Okay, if you earned $100 more, each one of these blocks is worth $50. Each unit here is worth $50. 50 plus 50 plus 50 gives you 150. You have 2 blocks here that's more, and that 2 blocks is worth $100 more. So those are your examples for today of model drawing and explaining your thought processes, making sure you understand the questions that are being asked and being able to critique real world situations. So if you have any questions about these, it's a good time to ask. There are in your 6th grade, in the 6th grade math workbook, there are again 2 examples that are on pages F18 and F19. And I will post them, F18 and F19. I'll post them just like I did yesterday. And Mr. Mullen has the 5th grade book, and he said that the 5th grade book has the same types of mathematical practices that are posted on pages F23 and F24. So
WAQKT, warm avocados, quiz keen turnips. That's a wild one. WAQKT is your code to get into today's writing lesson. So for those of you just coming back to your computers, go ahead, go to joinpd.com. Mrs. Digby dropped the link into the chat, or just type in joinpd.com, just like we did the other day, and we'll continue doing. And your code for today's lesson is posted there on the screen. So take about 30 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Just like Mrs. Digby and Mrs. Bragg had said earlier, all the lessons that we're doing, Mrs. Digby is sort of curating all of those lessons, and they will all eventually be posted on YouTube. So if you felt as though you missed some information, or there's something that you want to go back and double check, you will have the opportunity to go back and look at those lessons. So once all of that information is available, we will let you know. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We've got 109 in there, but we're going to go ahead and get going anyway. Okay, so good morning, everyone. So we're talking about writing. The other day we talked about why we write. And a lot of writing is structure. I think many of us are better writers than we think, but knowing how to structure your writing is a big part of the writing process. And we're going to talk about a very specific skill, probably the most important skill that you'll learn as a writer. So, question. Have you ever watched a movie and fast forwarded over the parts that aren't interesting? So, if you click the pair down in the bottom left-hand corner, so have you ever watched a movie and fast forwarded over the parts that aren't interesting? How many of you have done that? So go ahead and click the pair down there and let me know. Have you ever watched a movie, whether it's something that you've seen quite a bit or maybe even just a movie on Netflix and that part's boring, I'm gonna skip over it. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, that's me too. It depends on whether or not I've seen it or what I'm trying to do. Quite a few of you, let me see here. I need to shut that down. So 23 of us, yes. But if I'm reading something for information, you know, how do I fast forward through the boring parts of a piece of writing? Okay, this is a device and it's one that we're going to use a lot this year. It's called summarizing. So it's basically when we take a bunch of information and we try to narrow all of that information down into its most important parts. Okay, so here's what I want you to do right now, and I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do this. So read the following paragraph and identify the uninteresting information. So I think we've got about 7 or 8 seconds.
Mr. Hartman, whenever you would like, also the video from yesterday is up in the Google Classroom and on the website on the Daily To Do if you want to screen share and show them again.
Oh, perfect.
When you're
Perfect, thank you. Okay, about a minute remaining. I'll read this out loud so that way, hopefully that'll give you a better sense of what's essential, what's important information here and what isn't. We all got in the car and drove out of the driveway, and then we had to stop at the gas station. We all went in and got a drink and some chips. Then we got back in the car and drove for about 6 hours. I slept for a while and then read my book. We stopped for lunch and I had a hot dog and fries. It was a long and boring ride, but we finally arrived at the beach where we had an exciting day. All right. We all got in the car and drove out of the driveway, and then we had to stop at the gas station. We all went in and got a drink and some chips. Then we got back in the car and drove for about 6 hours. I slept for a while and then read my book. We stopped for lunch and I had a hot dog and fries. It was a long and boring ride, but we finally arrived at the beach where we had an exciting day. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to rewrite this paragraph. And by rewrite, what I mean is summarize. So what is in 1 to 2 sentences, no more than that, what is this paragraph about? Okay, summarize it. And how do we summarize? Who, what, when, where, why, how? What is the most essential or important information in this particular paragraph? So take, we'll say 3 minutes. And then we'll take a look at the responses together here. So again, we're looking for what is the big picture, what is the most essential information in this particular paragraph. Is it getting a drink and some chips? Which those seem like interest or, you know, details. Is sleeping for a while and reading a book, is that really important to what the overall idea of this paragraph? Okay, another minute and 15 seconds remaining.
Like completely shut it down.
Okay.
Okay, about 20 seconds remaining. Okay, let's take a look at some responses here. Okay, so we're just trying to do this in 1 to 2 sentences. So what is the most important information? If we're trying to like fast forward through all of those details or, and those are important when we're writing, but we're just trying to identify what that big picture is. How do we do that? And that's not what I was looking for. Okay. We had to stop at the gas station. It was a long, boring ride, but finally we arrived at the beach and we had an exciting day. Okay. This right here is an interesting one. If I had to, no, I don't want to hit this. You know what? I'm going to go for it. No, I'm not. So if I had to summarize this particular, this particular prompt in one sentence, it would be this. Let me pump this up so we can see it. After a long, boring ride, we finally arrived at the beach for an exciting day. One sentence. So now, is there more than one correct way to write a summary for that particular paragraph? Yes. But this is what we have for a summary. After a long, boring ride, we finally arrived at the beach for an exciting day. Okay, that one sentence summarizes all of what we had learned here in this particular paragraph. So backing out of the driveway, stopping at the gas station, getting a drink, some chips, driving for 6 hours, sleeping for a while, reading book. Those are all good details. Like they paint a better picture of what it's about. But if we're trying to summarize all of that information, that particular sentence, after a long, boring ride, we finally arrived at the beach for an exciting day. So if you're summarizing well, it almost seems like you're cheating because you're taking all of this information, all of these different things, and you're putting it into one sentence, maybe two sentences. So summarizing is a very, very important skill, and it's something we're going to be doing a lot of summarizing for nonfiction reading, which means that our textbooks, our science, our social studies, you're going to be expected to summarize. And then also for fiction. And the way you summarize for each of those is a little bit different. Okay? So, good. Now, here's what I am really interested in. How 4 people have responded to this already, I haven't the faintest clue. But pretend your friend was absent from class today. Write what you would say if you had to explain what we just talked about to a friend. Okay? So we talked about summarizing and taking all of a bunch of information and trying to identify what's most important. So if you had a friend who was absent from class today, what would you tell them? Okay, what did you learn in this particular lesson or writing class today? So I want you to take just about, we'll take 3 minutes, and then we're going to review some of those responses. Okay, take about two more minutes remaining. Okay, about 30 seconds remaining. Okay, so before we look at those responses, there's something that, you know, I'm sitting here reflecting on everything that I've been talking about, and I think I need to be more specific. So I need to do a better job of summarizing. So this is what I came up with. I learned how to summarize. If I were writing the assignment that you just did, I learned how to summarize, which is identifying the most important information in a piece of writing. Details are important, but not so much for a summary. When you summarize, you're just trying to find the most important information. Okay, so here's the key phrase for me. And if you haven't paid attention up to this point, this is probably a good place and time to pay attention. So if I were watching this lesson, my first question would be, okay, well, how do I identify the most important information? And I think that's where most of us are at. Before I started teaching, I was a journalist. And everything that journalists write revolves around these 6 questions. There's only 6 questions that we can ask. So there's the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how. So if we go back and take a look at that paragraph, we all got in the car and drove out of the driveway, and then we had to stop at the gas station. So for this particular question, I'm going to make some assumptions here. I'm going to say my family. What? Drove for about 6 hours. Going to the beach. It doesn't really tell us when, so we'll just say, we'll say today. Where? The beach doesn't give us a specific beach. Why? To have fun. How? Driving. Okay. So if you answer then, at that point, you can build your summary once you've identified what those 6 things are. So the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how. So when we talk about identifying the most important information in a piece of writing, if you can identify those 6 things, the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how, you are going to be able to write a decent summary. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at these responses. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Basically, we learned how to summarize stories. Stories is a little bit different for fiction. A who, what, when, where, why, how can work, but sometimes we're going to do something a little different. Summarizing class. Yep. Okay. We had to do a summary, and we had to rewrite a big sentence, and we had to make it into 1 or 2 sentences. Good. A paragraph to summarize what it is. Basically define key parts in a piece of media that you're using. Who, what. Yeah, very good. That's an excellent summary of what we did. We had just summarized the story to see what is important. Good. Some people are still working. We simply identify what's most important in a paragraph, and we cut off all the useless and tiring information. Wow, what a great summary. And we learned that details are very important, but not boring details. The subject on which we learned will help you very much, and you will be a better writer with these lessons. Hopefully, that's the idea. That's a great summary. Huh, ironically enough. Yeah, anybody who was absent yesterday, Mrs. Digby is posting videos, or she's in the process of posting videos of the lessons, so you can go back and look at those. Mr. Hartman showed us a paragraph, and we had to take the most important details and make it simpler. Wow, what a great, I could not have said that better. That's fantastic. Yep, we just want to identify the who, what, when, where, why, and how. You do that, and the summary will literally write itself. Hey, Jimmy. I don't know who Jimmy is, but we learned about summarizing paragraphs into 1 or 2 sentences and removing not needed ones. Okay. All right. This is good stuff, guys. I'm impressed. I am impressed. So that is it for today, at least for writing.
Okay. I don't have to wait till they all get on, do I, before I start the class?
No, they'll jump in as you go.
Okay. Should be able to see the first slide. Okay. It says 7 habits of highly effective readers. This is a continuation of what we did yesterday. About 1 more minute. All right, let's think about this. There are a lot of smart people in the world, right? And there's a lot of smart people in our lives. But who do you think is the smartest person that you know? Who's the smartest person you can think of? And then I want you to think also what makes them so smart. And I want you to write your response down here on the bottom, okay? So go ahead and do that. Who is the smartest person you can think of, and what makes them so smart? 1 minute. It's a quick answer. Mr. Hartman, I may be leaning on you for some coaching through this, so. Could be mom and dad, it could be Mrs. Lester, it could be Mrs. Digby. It's probably a woman. Okay.
Mullen,
yes.
This is a very interesting question. In fact, I want to try to join this lesson, but I don't want to mess it up.
Hold on. Let's look at our responses real quick. Elon Musk. Hey, he played his business right and is now one of the richest persons. Good job. Albert Einstein. You probably recognized his picture at the top. My dad, he's an expert on machines, math, and technology. Awesome. Albert Einstein again. Albert Einstein. Albert Instant. That's somebody I don't know because he made a lot of different and knows lots of math. Mr. Mullen, because he teaches chess. Well, thank you, but I'm not that good at chess. The smartest person I can think of is Einstein. Huh, that's interesting, isn't it? Huh. My grandma, because she knows when I'm going to do something stupid and crazy. That's why she's the smartest person I know.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. I get it. Invented the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell. Louis Pasteur, good job. My mom, she's good at math. God, he knows everything. Some of you guys have some really interesting, Mr. Hartman, he's a great teacher. His lessons are very interesting.
Okay, A for that kid, whoever they are.
So, who's the smartest person you can think of? If you look across the top, these are all smart people that we've had in our history of our country. And you'll notice that some of them, Madam Curie, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Sally Ride, Sacagawea, they're just extremely intelligent people. But why? What makes them so smart? Well, I want to show you the person that I think is the most important, the smartest person I know. Not the most important, that'd get me in trouble. Okay? His name, the smartest person I know is Jackson Dean Mullen. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I picked him just because he's my grandson, but that's not true. That's not true. It's not because he's related to me that he's smart. It's because he's related to Mrs. Mullen that he's smart, okay? probably. But the reason he's smart is because he consistently does something that all smart people do. Do you know what that is? What would that be? Well, what is it, the one thing these people all have in common? They ask questions. Smart people ask questions. Whatever they're doing, no matter how fast or how slow they're doing it or whatever task they have, they always ask questions. To ask questions, I found this quote and I think this is really helpful. To ask questions is the beginning and often the end of intelligence. It's at the very heart of what it means to be smart. It's the first mark of being smart. So would you agree or would you disagree with the following statement? There is no such thing as a dumb question. Okay, drag your spot, your little dot, do you see it? I think it's down at the bottom, and put it where you think it is. And in a minute, we'll see our responses. Go ahead and do that right now. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Okay, another 10 seconds. I don't want you to think too much on this. Just give me your gut reaction. Okay, let's look and see how we responded. Woo, we're all over the place, which is okay. That means we have different opinions, and that's fine. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Is that right? Well, that depends on who you talk to. But I think as a rule, that's a good guide. There's no such thing. If you have a sincere question, maybe the only dumb question is an insincere question. Question you're just asking to be funny or something like that. But if it's a sincere question, it is a good question. Okay? There is no such thing as a dumb question. That's a good rule. Let's go to the next one. Okay? Now, when I read my books, and I read all the time, okay? This year I have a goal to read 50 books. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. Last year I only read about 30. But every time I read a book, as I read a book, I'm in conversation all the time with what I'm reading. Do you talk to yourself as you read a book? I read something and I ask a question all the time. Going through because her mother is no longer with her. And you say to yourself, oh, I understand that. I've experienced that. I know what that's like. If you haven't experienced it, you might say, I wonder what that would be like. Okay? So you're starting to make connections. You make a connection with yourself. You can make a connection with the book or the author. And you can make a connection with the world at large. Hey, I know what that's about because I've read about it someplace else. And you start to put all these different things that you have read and you start putting them together, okay? When we make connections, we learn and we don't forget what we've put into our head. And so connections are very, very, very important. So what kind of questions should you ask when you read, okay? Well, I would say this, you need to ask the obvious. You know, whatever is right there on the front of your head, or in your mind, that's what you need to ask. Also ask about things that interest you. If something comes up in your reading and it really pricks your interest and you want to learn more about it, ask it in your mind. Go ahead and ask it. When you read something and something all of a sudden surprises you, ask why is this in the book? Why does it surprise me? When something's repeated over and over, you need to ask yourself, why does the author keep on doing this, keep on saying this, keep on using this word, keep on using this image? When a character does something unusual, it's not a part of their character and they go out, a timid person becomes very brave. Ask yourself, what does this mean? How does this change the story? And when something doesn't make sense, ask yourself, how come? Well, I want you to think of some questions that you often ask yourself when you read. I want you to go ahead down on the bottom again, write your response. I'm only looking for a sentence or two, not more than that. So we'll give you 1 minute. What's one other question you might ask when you read? Go ahead and do it. Go. 1 minute. Okay, we'll start to look at the responses. Okay, here's a whole bunch. What is he doing? What will happen? Why would he do this? Why did they do this? Again, we're talking about those words, those question words, which Mr. Hartman just highlighted in his last lesson. In fact, much of what we're going to do is going to overlay what Mr. Hartman's going to do, especially as we talk about summarizing, getting to the main point. What does that mean? Can I relate? Good question. Does this make sense to me and where I'm coming from in my own life? What is this book about? I like these, yes. Child, why did you do this? I would ask about what interests me, okay? Ask about something that doesn't make sense. Then one person says, what will happen? That's making a prediction. Good question. Why did he or she do that? That's about motivation, something we're going to talk about sometime this semester. Why did he or she leave them? Good. Again, what's going to happen? We're talking about predictions, something we talked about yesterday. How is the book going to end? Good. Ask about anything you don't know. Good. And then when you come to words that you don't know, you have to come up and you have to ask this, what does this word mean? Good job. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Effective readers often write their questions down. Now see, this is something. Effective readers, I do sometimes write my questions down, but I don't always write my questions down, but I am always asking questions. But what we're going to do is we are going to write questions down as we read. Then as you proceed to read and you read more, you're going to come up with some answers. And when we find an answer to a question we had, we're going to write it down. That's called a response. To respond is the fourth habit of highly effective readers. So it's not enough just to ask questions, but we want to find answers. So let's try this, okay? Let's read this together. I'm going to give you 1 minute to read it top to bottom. And then I want you to answer the question where it says, what question might you ask at this point in the text? Okay? So go ahead and read it top to bottom. And then when you get to the bottom, go ahead and write the one question you would ask after reading that little text. Go ahead, start now. Wave at me if you've got done reading and you're starting to write, okay? Are you done reading? If you are, wave at me. I just need to know when we can.
Mr. Mullen, I'm really enjoying this lesson and getting a lot out of it. I think it's also, it's interesting too, how often like a piece of writing's title will give us clues to what
That's
something
right.
is about.
Right. Okay, we're gonna start showing the responses. I'm gonna look and see where we're at. Okay. Before we go there, I want to ask some questions over the passage. Mr. Hartman built upon summarizing, so if you could tell me just really quick what this story is about, you would ask the who, what, where, why, when, how, wouldn't you? So the who is the 12-year-old Amanda Clement. What became a umpire for Major League Baseball? Why is it important? Because she was the first woman to do so. That was a long time ago, over 100 years ago, 1904, but she was the first woman to do so, okay? So if I was asking a question, what are some of the questions we might ask? What does it mean and how do you do it? How would she make baseball history that day? I really like this one. How did she make history to that day? Did her brother win the game? Okay. Should I get milk and cookies? Does that make sense? Oh, that's a silly, silly answer. And if you do that on your work that you hand in, you'll get 0 credit, won't you? Okay. Why does she want to play baseball? What does umpire mean? Okay, that's a big question if you don't know it, okay? Did she do a good job? I like this one. How did she make history that day? What did she do to make history? Perfect. So let's go back now. The one of them I saw was what happens next, which is also always a great, great answer. Here's how it is. Somebody asked, why'd you leave the cliffhanger off? They wanted to know how it ended. Well, this is how it ended. The large crowd watched in disbelief as the 5'10" 16-year-old took her position behind the pitcher's mound where umpires stood. She was about to become the first female paid to umpire a baseball game. Now, the picture there, do you see the picture there? We do have women umpires in Major League Baseball today, though they are still rare. But they were not the first, okay? They were not the first, and we need to realize that. So we ask questions according to what we read. We let the text stir us up inside, and we ask questions. Okay? Asking questions and response. To ask questions, listen, to ask a question is always smart, and it is always an effective habit of a good reader. To ask questions lead us to make connections and to remember what we have read. As we ask, we always need to be ready to respond and answer the questions the best we can. Still, we need to understand this. Some questions we will never be able to answer, just the way it is, okay? But they still need to be asked. Okay, here's our assignment for today. You're going to go to your vocabulary grid and you're going to add 2 new words, 2 slides, 2 words. The first word is question, it's a verb, and the second word is respond. It's a verb, okay? Verbs are words that we use to describe things we do. So, I don't want the definition for the noun, I want the definition for the verb, okay? Okay. And any questions at all? If you have any questions, send them into the text. I'm going to